I've described real estate as the world's biggest industry where nobody can figure out how to make any money. I kind of have these themes every year. You know, last year my theme was power moves. My theme for this year, the best I can get, is everything is changing, nothing is changing.
That solo agent out there, how do they navigate through all of the noise that the headlines of the industry trades would make you believe that the world is crumbling around the industry?
Stop going on the internet. Take a little digital detox. I don't think it's helpful. It's very easy to conflate news with entertainment. There's very little signal out there. And when I talk to various leaders in the industry, they're not sitting there online reading the news. They're making the news. If you're a real estate agent, you are the last mile solution. Companies can spend billions of dollars building technology, running predictive analytics or AI on leads, generating online leads, all of that, but you still need a real estate agent to call that lead.
Hi everyone, welcome to X Factor Marketing. Today's guest is such a treat to get to talk to. He's an industry strategist, writer, consultant, and a unique industry observer. Mike DelPrete has such an observational power on the industry. And you guys, he literally has moved markets. And we're going to jump in and talk about all the things that are happening. So Mike, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Wendy. Happy to be here.
It's really fun to get to talk to you. There is so much happening. We talked before we turned the camera on of like all of the things. So we've got Compass, Anywhere, Redfin, Rocket, Google. Does it seem like the industry is at a tipping point, or is it just more of the same?
And you forgot to mention AI as well.
Yes, AI. Yeah, we can throw that in there.
You know, I was thinking about it I was thinking about it last week, and I was putting together a presentation for something. And I kind of have these themes every year. You know, last year my theme was power moves. That was kind of the big thing I was talking about, mainly around these big companies you were mentioning and really changing the strategic status quo in the industry. My theme for this year, the best I can get, is everything is changing, nothing is changing. And I think that kind of sums it up, because it feels like both are true, right? It does feel like everything is changing. Like what's going on, with Rocket and Redfin and the Compass deal, what's going on with Zillow and the other portals kind of continuing these power moves. What's going on with AI, right? Are we all going to be out of jobs? I mean, there's so much hype out there. But then at the exact same time, I'm a research guy and a data guy. The research and evidence suggests that the fundamentals aren't changing. What was true kind of 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 1 year ago is still true today. The agents are the center of the transaction. There's no movement away from that. It's hard to replace personal connections with technology or AI. It's hard to attach mortgage. Some of this stuff is just fundamental and it doesn't change. So yeah, I think it's kind of everything's changing and nothing's changing all at the same time.
Yes. And I think that's what makes it really hard for the individual practitioner, that solo agent out there who is the entrepreneur just trying to help the consumer list their home and sell it, find a new home for them and their family to move into. How do they navigate through all of the noise that the headlines of the industry trades would make you believe that the world is crumbling around the industry?
Yeah.
And you contribute to those headlines.
I know. I'm part of the problem. I'd like to think I'm part of the solution. But somebody asked me a similar question, like, where do you suggest these people go, or what do they do to cut through the signal and the noise? And my suggestion was pretty simple. Stop going on the internet. I think that's what, I mean, and I'm half joking, but all serious.
Yeah, it's
right?
like we say, stop watching the news, right? You're worried about what's happening in the world, right?
Stop going on the internet, take a little digital detox, because it's not, I don't think it's helpful. It's just not. It's very easy to conflate news with entertainment. There's very little signal out there. And when I talk to various leaders in the industry, like yourself or Leo, and plenty of leaders at other companies, they're not sitting there online reading the news, right? They're making the news. They're doing action. So they're not in this echo chamber of, oh, what's everybody saying or what's everybody doing? They're kind of just ignoring that, putting it to the side and focusing on the job to be done. So whether you're the CEO of a company or an individual agent contributor, I think the advice is the same.
Right. Well, that being said, there is a lot going on, and there is some strategy that I think the individual agent should be thinking about as the moves are being made by the big companies that do impact the industry. So we probably should talk a little bit about those things, because I'm curious about like some of your thoughts about that. So let's talk a little bit about the headlines of the day. So, of course, we have Compass versus Zillow and the battle over exclusive listings. And there has been, the portal dominance, exclusive listings, has Compass, is Compass leading that war? Who's leading in the trenches right now in that battle?
It's a great question, a great place to start. I noticed within myself that when I think about that topic, I get easily bored. Last year I would be checking the data, checking the numbers almost every day. I'm just curious.
You were tracking them, right? You were tracking how many private listings Compass had on their website.
And this year I'll go weeks at a time before I look. I'm just not, I'm bored by it. I think private exclusives is so 2025. And what I feel like it's played itself out, it's a thing, it exists. And, there's all these lawsuits and there's high level things, but at the end of the day, it is there. And I don't know if we can kind of say there's a winner or a loser, but we can say, well, clearly there, Compass has about 10,000 exclusive listings between coming soon and private exclusives. That's it. Nobody has been able to stop them or get rid of those. There's been some, federal court stuff, which I attended and was fantastic. But that hasn't changed anything. What happens in the courtroom is not going to affect what's happening in the real world. So, we have to live with it. It's kind of, it is what it is. And I think it'd be healthy to just kind of accept that and move forward instead of trying to, look backwards.
Right. And what are your thoughts on the Redfin deal?
It's pretty incredible in terms of a big deal. And I think for me, so actually it just as a quick aside, I just posted a podcast, today, the day we're recording this, with Joe Rath from Rocket and Redfin, where we spent about an hour and 15 minutes talking about the deal. But I think for me, the biggest thing out of that was this really clear signal that Rocket and Redfin are here. Redfin has kind of been this perennial underdog. And now they're, under Rocket's umbrella, a huge player, a significant player, staking out a position. This partnership is a big position, and their press release looks like it was written by Compass, right? It's talking about seller choice, and we believe in this and we believe in that. So I think that's the biggest thing, is that you have this combined entity making a really loud claim, hey, we're here. We are a very serious competitor.
Do you think there's any connection between Glenn Kelman's decision to leave the company and this partnership?
Listen, I was an entrepreneur. I built a business and I sold it. And after I sold it, I stuck around for 2 years and then I left. When I was working in New Zealand, my job was M&A, mergers and acquisitions. I would invest and buy in other businesses. And, my assumption was, okay, if we buy a business, the founders, at most, we have them for 2 years, and then that's it, right? It's just different. It's like speaking a different language.
It's a different environment. So Glenn, I guess, stuck around for a year. Was it a year?
Almost. A year? I think almost a year. But, he's been. I don't know. I can't speak for him, but he's been around 20 years, and I think it was clearly just a matter of time. But it's an interesting question. Would this deal have happened if he were in charge? It's interesting, but he's not in charge. He's not there, and the deal did happen. So that's kind of what we have.
Yeah, it is what we have. That's a question that when I see him next, I'll ask him what his thoughts are about it.
Redfin is kind of waffled around in this space in the past. They've had Redfin exclusives. That was something they did before. I think Glenn was very pragmatic when he talked about exclusives. He's like, hey, I'd prefer not to do it, but if we're going to do it, we're going to do it. So I think there's a pragmatism there that you see in this Rocket and Redfin deal. Like it makes sense for both parties in a lot of different ways. And, I don't think it's going to, we'll see what happens, right? It's still early days, right? All we have is a press release and maybe a couple dozen coming soon listings on Redfin right now. But that's what we got.
It is still early days. So it does play in, and you've done a lot of writing and talk about sort of mega brokers and the world of the mega broker. And where does the rest of the agents that aren't part of the mega brokers, where do they fall into the landscape? Is that sort of solo ma and pa brokerage or an agent that's part of that sort of small independent in middle America that isn't connected to one of the big mega broker networks? Like, are they collateral damage in all of this? Is there opportunity for them in this chaos? Like, where do you see them competing in the future?
Yeah, again, great question. I think I'll explain why in a second, but I actually think it's a great forcing function, what's happened, this consolidation. And it's going to force those brokers, small to mid-sized brokers, regional, whatever it is, to be better, right? And they're actually going to, it's going to force them to be better. So what I mean by that is I think a great agent, is going to do a great job for buyers and sellers. And a great buyer's agent is going to find all available inventory in a market, right? And that, historically, what is that? It's like, oh, there's a condo complex being built. None of those listings are on the MLS, but I know the developer and I can talk to you about that. Or, the Joneses down there, they're thinking about moving. Their house isn't on the MLS, but they're thinking about moving. So, maybe let's start chatting with them, right? They're going to just know. That's what makes a great agent. That's why somebody hires an agent, because they're in the community doing all that. So if you're part of a mega platform that automatically gives that to you, maybe you get lazy, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe you stop networking and you're just like, I have all this exclusive inventory from corporate and it's great. But going forward, any agent that's not part of a mega brokerage with exclusive inventory, they're going to have to find it. They're going to have to get access to it, and it's not impossible. I mean, now those listings will be on Redfin. People know Compass agents, right? There's stuff in and out of an MLS. Like it's not hidden under lock and key. I mean, Compass has even said, like, come into our office, look at the book. I mean, yeah, I get how ridiculous that sounds, but the point is, I think that stuff is available, and if you're a great agent, you're gonna be able to find a way to get access to that.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about this holy grail race of owning the entire transaction. So we know that both Zillow and Rocket are in this race. They want to own from top of the funnel all the way through. They want the entire customer experience. If both Zillow and Rocket are in this race to own the entire transaction, where does that leave the agent's role in the process?
Yeah. So when I present on the Holy Grail, I show two images. I show Indiana Jones and the Holy Grail, and then I show Monty Python and the search for the Holy Grail. And there's like this good story and a bad story, right? Indiana Jones finds it, and it's this crazy romantic adventure. And Monty Python and the Holy Grail, like they almost find it, but they get attacked and killed by bunny rabbits. So there's
a bit of a contrast there.
Yeah. And I think if you listen to the propaganda and you read the press releases and the investment decks, it's all Indiana Jones. However, the reality of the situation over the past decade has been more Monty Python. It's really hard to do this. I mean, operationally, I tried to do it when I was in New Zealand working at a property portal. It's just hard to expand the value chain as a portal to do, mortgage and title and brokerage and search and all this together. It's really hard. I'm not going to unpack why. It just is. It's like this universal law.
Yes. And it's been that sort of North Star, that holy grail for a couple decades now.
Yeah.
Right? And nobody has done it.
Yeah. So it's really hard. With all that being said, though, a couple points today. You have Zillow and Rocket, probably two of the biggest companies in this space, focusing on this goal. And they're putting a lot of resource almost single-mindedly into it. Right? They're not like doing 17 different things or 3 different things. I mean, if you talk to them, they're like, this is the thing. This is what we're doing. So they're focused on it. And the other thing about the Holy Grail and transactions is it's zero sum, meaning there's only so many transactions every year in the country, right? Like the portal wars with, new portals coming on and buying traffic and whatnot, traffic is non-zero sum. You can conjure new traffic out of thin air, right? It doesn't come at the expense of an existing portal, but transactions do. So if you say that, okay, Zillow's putting a lot of effort and maybe it's not going to be a rocket ship, but they are going to get more traction, and Rocket's putting in a lot of effort. And again, maybe not a rocket ship, but they will get more traction. If you balance that equation out after the equals sign, like it's less. There's going to be less.
Yeah.
And it's not like
one loses one.
Yeah, exactly. And you're not going to see that with by brokerages closing down and going out of business. It's going to be the agent down the street who did 7 deals last year and did 6 this year and doesn't really think about it or know why, right? It's just little bits here and there. So that's what I would caution against. And I would kind of, for any agent, this idea of being a great agent, you got to kind of make sure you have a dance partner in this, right? Because I think the world is changing a little bit, right? Everything's changing, nothing's changing. So like it is changing. It's not going to totally transform the space, but if these big companies are moving in that direction, I think it kind of behooves everybody to understand it, see where they're going, and have a plan out of that.
Right. So is it better for the consumer? So is the idea of this one-stop shop, is it ultimately better for the consumer? That I start at the top of the funnel with search. I mean, either go in with, Zillow or, Redfin and Rocket, and I go all the way through the funnel, and I've got one stop that I can be looked after at every stage of my transaction. Is that better for the consumer ultimately?
It's a tricky question because it's not worse for the consumer, right? We can't argue that it's worse. I think what you described is better for the company because they can make more money. They can generate more revenue. But this question of, is it better for the consumer? Like, yeah, sure, it's better, right? If we can make it easier, streamline the transaction, that's better. I think the question is, like, how much does the consumer care? And where does that stay? Or where is that in their list of, top 10, top 20 concerns? I don't think if you surveyed a lot of home buyers and asked them what their biggest pain point in real estate is, I don't think you'd get a lot of folks saying, oh man, I wish I could just get everything in one place, right? I wish I had, I wish I could combine brokerage and search and mortgage in one spot. I don't think anybody's going to say that, right? They're going to be talking about affordability and finding the right home for them and their family. And then last thing, there's a difference between bundling services and then bundling and saving. So to date, we've seen a lot of bundling, but what Rocket is promising, and I say promise because it's not there quite yet, I don't think, is that bundle and save. And we don't know. I don't know how important that's going to be to consumers, right? Like, oh, do I stay in the Rocket ecosystem because I can save 20 grand?
And presumably the savings would be important.
Presumably, but I mean, Wendy, right? That just gets rolled into the 30-year mortgage. So you're not getting a check for 20 grand. You're saying like, oh,
yeah, 20 grand over 30 years is not going to be
And I don't want to dismiss it, but if we're talking, what is that, 20, $30 a month in your mortgage payment? Like nobody's going to poo-poo 20 or 30 free dollars a month, but there's other factors that are really important here. So we have to kind of wait and see and to see what's going to move the needle, what's really going to move the needle for consumers.
Yes. Now I want to go back to something you said on this topic. You said the agent should consider their dance partner. And you were alluding there then to Zillow or Rocket as being a dance partner of choice. So what do you mean by that?
They're possible dance partners. I think Zillow and Rocket are big companies. They generate a lot of cash and they spend a lot of money on advertising. And Rocket especially, right? Close to $1 billion a year. So they're going to be advertising to consumers. So if you're an agent, you're listening to this podcast and you're in somebody's living room in the future, they might say to you, hey, I just saw this Rocket commercial where I can bundle and save. Can you do anything similar? You should have a good answer to that. It doesn't need to be, oh, I also work with Rocket or Zillow. You should just have a good answer. And that's it.
Okay. All right. Okay. Back in December, you wrote an article about Google entering search, and you did a screenshot of what it would look like if Google embedded full search into their platform. And it literally caused Zillow's stock prices to drop 9% the day that the article was published. Tell us a little bit about that. And were you surprised by that happening?
Yeah, that was a fun, I think that was kind of a Friday night type endeavor. And so to be really clear, in that moment, that Friday night, I could kind of open my phone, go into Google Chrome, incognito mode, search for real estate in Austin or real estate Denver, real estate in San Francisco, homes for sale, San Francisco. I forget what the exact phrase was. And up top, above anything else, actual listings would appear.
And this was something Google was testing.
Yeah, Google was testing in partnership with a company called House Canary, and they were getting the listings from the MLSs. I think some MLSs were surprised by that. There was a lot of people were surprised. But yeah, and I mean, to be fair, it was a great interface and great experience. You could see these listings. You could write on Google. You could filter by bedrooms, bathrooms, price. You could see the agent. You could click into the agent. It wasn't the listing agent, but it was an agent who was effectively paying Google to get leads, but they were like 5-star agents. They seemed like legit. It was really cool. It was really exciting. So I mean, but if you're someone like me and you see that, you're like, oh my god, this is kind of. Did you
get a tip that Google was testing this? Like, how did you know on this Friday night to go do this search incognito?
I don't know how I get a lot of things. I look at a lot of stuff. I talk to a lot of people. I think about a lot of things. I'm constantly like testing and poking, and and this one just kind of happened to percolate up. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like intuitively, I just knew it was a big deal. It's like, oh man, like Google. The thing is, if Google's thinking about your industry, you need to pay attention. If Amazon is thinking about your industry, you need to pay attention, whether it's real estate or home care goods or beauty, like whatever it is.
So clearly Google is thinking about our industry.
Yeah.
Very likely Amazon is thinking about our industry. Like put on, like, we've got the crystal ball here. Like, what does Mike D's crystal ball look like?
I mean, our real estate, our industry, it's an acquired taste, right?
that's one way to put it.
It's a complete and utter mess, but it's just invigorating and exciting all at the same time. I've described real estate as the world's biggest industry where nobody can figure out how to make any money. There's so many companies that are not profitable or that are trying to make money. They try to disrupt the status quo. For years, people have asked, oh, wouldn't Google just buy a brokerage or a portal, or wouldn't Amazon do that? And I've thought, what? No, why? Like, why would they take a good business and get into a hard business? It's really hard. It's going in real estate. I'm not so sure Amazon would do anything else in this space, but Google, That makes a lot of sense, right? And they didn't buy a portal and they didn't buy a brokerage. They just started. I mean, come on, if you go to Google and you type in homes for sale in Austin, don't you want to see homes for sale in Austin? Like that's what somebody wants.
It makes sense.
So yeah, there's been pushback with that test and what happened. But if I had to make a bet, I would say, okay, a year from now, we'll probably see listings on Google, right? If they want to do it, they'll figure out a way to do it. And I don't think anybody involved in the process wants them to or thinks they can stop them. Like if you have a home, if you have a listing, if you have a home you want to sell, like, don't you want it on Google? Like, why wouldn't you? It's kind of like your question about, is this good for consumers? It's not bad for consumers. Right. So it's just about figuring out the process to go through that and making sure all parties are kind of happy. And then that's kind of the wedge into this world of AI, right? Are listings going to appear in ChatGPT, Claude, all these Gemini, all these other AI systems? You have to think the answer is going to be yes somehow. And it's more about how do we play in that world as opposed to like, how do we stop it? Like, why would you try to stop that?
Yes. Yeah. Will be interesting to see how that all does play out. So you've written a lot and you've talked a lot about the last mile in real estate. So that human bridge that technology can't replace. And that's where the agent like really lives. What advice would you have for our listeners that are agents that are in that last mile and are solving that last mile problem out there in 2026, in the next 6 months? What do we need to be solving for the consumers out there to stay relevant in today's market?
Yeah. No, it's a great question. I have some hats behind me that say the last mile on them. It's true. I mean, if you're a real estate agent, you are the last mile solution. These, companies can spend billions of dollars building technology, running predictive analytics or AI on leads, generating online leads, all of that. But you still need a real estate agent to call that lead. There's no replacement for that. So you're definitely a last mile solution. The advice I would give to everybody is compete where you can win. So, get a piece of paper and a pen and just sit down and get off the internet, and think about like, how can you compete where you can win, right? You don't have to compete with Zillow or Redfin or Rocket. What can you offer that they can't? And oftentimes that comes down to, well, you're going to be in somebody's living room or kitchen, right? You can get a cup of coffee with somebody. Rocket can't get a cup of coffee with everybody. That's not the model. That's not how it works. And then the last component of that is, I've done research on what consumers want in agents and, how good or bad agents are at following up with online inquiries or open homes. And there's still like this huge opportunity gap there. Roughly 50% of online leads go ignored. So, if somebody calls you, call them back. If somebody texts you, text them back. Like just be really great at that communication, salesmanship, relationship building piece. That's what's it doesn't matter, where you're at or who your dance partner is, like that's what's going to separate the great agents, the ones who are successful, from everybody else.
Yes. I think especially in today's world, if somebody is calling you, for God's sakes, pick up the phone, right? They've done everything to avoid calling you. So if they're calling you, they really want to talk to you. They need help.
And that's the thing, in the past, agents would say, oh, if they're really serious, they'll keep calling me back. And that's not true. Like, every consumer is in everybody's database at this point, right? They're in Zillow's database, they're in Rocket's database, they're everywhere. So if you don't call them back, someone else will. And that's a big missed opportunity.
It sure is. Okay, last question for you. I believe everybody has an X factor, that superpower that makes them special. What do you think your X factor is?
Oh, wow. I think my X factor is pattern matching and being able to connect the dots from a distance. So I like to say, I don't have a real job. I get to spend all my time being curious and looking around the industry and kind of finding those repeatable patterns and using that to distill out and understanding trends or general themes in the space. I think I've developed a capability to do that.
I would say you definitely have. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. Thank you so much for your X Factor and sharing it with our industry. You definitely do bring that X Factor, and we all benefit from it. So it's been great chatting with you today, Mike.
Awesome. Thanks, Wendy. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.